Hello, my name is Peter Parfitt. Welcome to the new Brit workshop. Now, I'm a fan of Osmo products. In particular, I use a lot of Osmo PolyX and the new PolyX Gloss. Now, I'm always looking at new ways of applying oil finishes because I want to get the very best out of the product. Now, I'm in the process of making a new mitre station for my Festool Capex mitre saw. And I'm at the stage now where I'm just about to make the drawers. And I thought that with 8 drawers, this would give me 8 very similar samples so that I can test a variety of ways of applying Osmo. So the real aim is to try and discover which method of applying Osmo oil produces the best finish. And along with that, I'm also looking at ease of application of the oil as well. Now, traditionally, what I've been doing is applying the oil with a brush and then wiping off the excess with a cloth. And someone wrote to me the other day and said, was I aware that some chaps in America had been using something which is a little bit like a Scotch-Brite to put on Osmo oil. And the suggestion is that by applying the oil with a non-abrasive pad like this, it produces a better finish, and it's apparently a little easier to apply. Now, I've got 3 different products. I've got one which is made by a company called Norton, and the product is called Beartex, and it's a white non-abrasive pad. And I've also got 2 products made by 3M, and they're both described as non-abrasive pads. They look very slightly different, but essentially, as far as this is concerned, I would say they're the same. Now, I'm not going to do a comparison between these 3 products. I don't do comparisons because you need a huge amount of science to do a proper product comparison. But what I am going to do is I'm going to try different methods on each drawer front to see whether it makes any improvement to the finish. And the sort of things I'm going to do is I'm going to do one which has 2 coats of oil brushed on with my bristle brush. I'm going to try another where I have 2 coats of oil applied with this fine brush. I'm going to try the combination of applying by brush and wiping off with a cloth. I'm going to try applying, using one of these non-abrasive pads, the oil in 2 coats. I'm then going to try using the pads, applying the first coat with the pad and the second coat with a brush. And I'll try the second coat with a bristle brush. I'll try the second coat with the fine brush. Now, each of my drawer fronts have been sanded down to 220 grit using my Festool Rotex sander, and that's produced a really lovely finish. And they are all identical as far as this stage is concerned. I'm going to use the normal Osmo PolyX product code 3032 on all of these, so there'll be no variation in that. The 2 brushes, as I mentioned, one is a bristle brush and one is a fine hair brush. This is a synthetic hair brush, and it's got a name on the end here. It says Color Expert. I don't know what that means, but I bought it in a random DIY store somewhere. For the wiping off, I will use my usual lint-free paper which I have in the workshop, which is no longer made, so please don't ask me what this is. I haven't found a replacement for it yet, and I've nearly run out. Now, I know which drawer is which because I've got them labelled at the bottom nearest to me. And I've got an idiot's guide here which tells me what I should be doing to each drawer front. So I'm going to start with this one, which is 2 coats, both brushed on with a bristle brush. And so obviously I can only do 1 coat at a time. So here's bristle brush only. Now, I've always said that it's really important to make sure you get this worked into the surface. So that's that one, evenly brushed, sparingly, because that's what Osmo recommend. Now we're into using the pads. So I'll put my brushes to one side, and I'm not going to declare which pad is used where. Now, as these pads are non-abrasive, you can go across the grain with them, which if you were using a real Scotch-Brite, perhaps you wouldn't be able to do. There we go. So, rather than boring you by showing you all of the methods of application, I'll just tell you that I've used my 2 brushes, I've used my cloth, and I've used each of these 3 pads in various combinations, and I've got a little checklist on these pieces of wood, and I'm now going to leave them to dry. And then I'll do the second stage according to my crib sheet, and after that we can judge the different methods of applying Osmo. Now, of course, having used my brushes, I've got to clean them, and after every coat. I use my own method of doing this. I've got some white spirit in this jar, which I use to get the bulk of the oil out, and after that I then use some methylated spirits in here, which does the final sort of cleansing action. Now, of course, the advantage of using these pads is that if they get clogged with oil, you just throw the bit away, and it looks as though from this I'm only going to be throwing less than a sixth, maybe as little as an eighth of a pad away at any given time. So I can now start to see the attraction of using a pad to apply the oil as far as convenience goes. And of course, with my workshop paper, I throw that away anyway. Now, what I don't know, and I cannot advise you, is whether one should treat these pads, once they've been used with oil, in the same way you'd treat a rag. You know, whether there is a risk of spontaneous combustion. I'm not going to take the chance, and I'm going to store these safely in a tin, so there'll be no risk of any fire. And you should perhaps do the same. And when you cut off a piece and throw it away, treat the piece you're throwing away carefully as well, in case there was a risk of fire. I'm not an expert, I cannot advise you, and so all I can say is just err on the side of caution. Well, this has had about 16 hours to dry, and I'm just going through making sort of judgments as to which is the better of the various finishes. And I started putting these tick marks on just to let me know which ones were better than others. And I'm using both feel and look. And I would say at this stage almost all of them are getting ticks. Now, I've not looked at my idiot sheet to see which ones have been done with which, but that is as it stands at the moment, and I'll try and overlay onto this what the various methods are. So of the pads, only one has had a tick mark. Interesting. Now, these large ones at the bottom here were both done with a pad, so they've had the same process at this stage. But this one here, I've decided at the beginning that between coats I'd just rub it with the product and see what happens. So in other words, it's like doing an intermediate sand, which one sometimes does. So I'm giving this just a rub over now. Now, one of the things that does happen, even in the best of workshops, is that when you put on a finish like this, if it's flat when it's drying, you might get the odd bit of dust settling on the surface. And ordinarily, I would probably try and tip it at a slight angle to minimize that, but it's not always possible. And so giving a little intermediate rub, even though the Osmo instructions say you don't need to do this, might just get rid of the odd little blemish which you've created. Now, I must tell you now that this would definitely get a tick at this stage. So there is merit in just using one of these in between coats. So that is one thing we've learnt. Right, now you're going to find out why I'm not a scientist. It's so good, I've decided that I'm going to do it to every single one. Now, the reason for that is that this has made this surface better than any of the others. absolutely without a doubt. And I think for the second stage, the second coat, I think it's only right to try and bring them all up to a similar standard. To put a second coat on, certainly this one here, would frankly not do it a lot of good. So I'm going to do this to every single one. Now, these are the only ones which are getting the pad as the method of putting on the second coat. Now, of course, we used a intermediate rub with a clean pad. I just wonder whether using the pad for the second coat alone would have that same rubbing effect that we did with the clean dry pad in between. It might do. So perhaps I should have refrained from doing them all with a clean dry pad just to see if this would have done it. So you see there's so many different variations, you're never going to get it right. Now that second coat is dry, and I've really looked hard to find differences in these, and there's only one that is marginally better than the others, and that's the one where I wiped off the final coat. But the rest of them are all perfectly satisfactory. I'll be happy to have any of these on furniture. Now, I hate those movies where you get to the end and you think, well, so what? Well, there are lots of so whats now. Finishing with a lint-free cloth is a good idea. I've proved that to myself, so I'm quite happy. As far as brushes go, I don't think it makes a huge amount of difference, although on one occasion when I was making that pedestal desk, I did try this fine brush for final coat, and it was very successful. But otherwise, no real difference with the brushes. Now, I think the pads are a pretty convenient way of putting on oil, because you can cut them into small pieces, use them, throw this away, or keep it in a tin if you wish to use it the following day. And that's pretty economical. You can get at least 6 of these pieces from a single pad. And also it's probably economical on the environment as well, because you're not having to constantly wash out brushes in products like this. And I quite like the idea of using it dry as an intermediate treatment of a surface, and perhaps even using it at the very end, because it really does produce the ultimate of smooth surfaces. The only thing which I found difficult, I was doing the rest of my mitre station yesterday, and I found that vertical surfaces, particularly when you're kneeling down, were a little bit awkward with a pad. It's just a little bit easier to use a brush on a vertical surface. Well, I hope this little investigation into different methods of applying Osmo has helped. If you're a brush fanatic, there's no need to change. If you brush and then wipe off with lint-free, that's a good method. But I think you'll agree that this new method with these pads I think is very useful, and I've learnt a lot. And I've got another application for these pads which I'll be showing in a video later this year. Thank you very much for watching. Take care. Bye-bye. Oh, I thought it was a pretty good film, really. Oh, excuse me. Newsflash. Axminster Power Tools will be stocking Osmo oils from the end of September. Got that? Osmo oil at Axminster. How about that then? Take care. Bye-bye.